The British royal family are one of the Illuminati bloodlines. It's all about genetics to these people. They're like horse breeders. Diana basically called herself the Windsor's brood man, as she was brought into the web merely to be the vehicle to give birth to William.
A confidant, Christian Fitzgerald, told me that people who did not support these black occult networks that controlling not just Britain, increasingly the world, they were feeding her information and warning her that she was in danger. One of the groups of people that worshipped Diana, the goddess, and did their rituals to her were called the Merovingians. The Merovingians are one of the, if not the, key bloodline in the whole Illuminati network.
What can you see there? It's strange. The code is somehow different. Encrypted, maybe.
Is that good for us or bad for us?
Looks like it would floor its horrible explosives.
Bad for us.
Here we go. Yes, we are here to speak with the Merovingian.
Of course. He has been expecting you. Follow me.
Here he is at last. Neo, the one himself. Right? And the legendary Morpheus. And Trinity, of course, si belle qu'elle me fait souffrir. I have heard so much. You honor me. Please sit. Join us. This is my wife, Persephone. Something to eat? Drink? Of course, such things are contrivances like so much here. For the sake of appearances.
No, thank you.
Yes, of course. Who has time? Who has time? But then if we do not ever take time, how can we ever have time?
You know why we are here.
I am a trafficker of information. I know everything I can. The question is, do you know why you are here?
We are looking for the keymaker.
Oh yes, it is true. The keymaker, of course. But this is not a reason, this is not a why. The keymaker himself, his very nature, is a means, it is not an end. And so, to look for him is to be looking for a means to do what?
You know the answer to that question.
But do you? You think you do, but you do not.
These are back doors, aren't they? Programmer access. How do they work?
The code is hidden in tumblers. One position opens a lock, another position opens one of these doors.
As Ralph Ellis explains, the first-degree tracing board is a representation of Solomon's Temple. Solomon's Temple being modeled after Giza, this is also a representation of the Giza Plateau. The 3 pillars being the 3 greater pyramids of Giza, and the 2 cubes being the plugs or the doors of the pyramid, and I would further speculate a symbol of the double square of the King's Chamber floor plan.
Inside every Masonic lodge you are likely to find the 2 pillars of Solomon's Temple and the 5-pointed or blazing star. It seems highly unlikely to my mind that it is a mere coincidence that these are the same elements we see at play in the 9/11 event. My current belief system views what happened on that day as a mega ritual. When the symbolic pillars came down on 9/11, the holiest of holies was revealed. Isis was unveiled. If we think of the towers as the pillars of Hercules, then what was revealed was the new Atlantis. We find another related and valid symbol system in the Kabbalah. Here the World Trade Center represents the left and the right pillar, the middle pillar being formed by the space in between, and representing, amongst other things, cosmic illumination or higher consciousness. The middle pillar can also be viewed as World Trade Center 7. We then have all 3 the pillars on the first-degree tracing board representing Solomon's Temple, and in its turn the 3 major pyramids of Giza, evoked during the 9/11 mega ritual. Which brings us to my current preferred metaphor for higher consciousness, the Stargate. This corporate sculpture, which used to stand in between the twin towers, is called the Spherical Caryatid. It was made by artist Fritz Koenig and was nicknamed the Sphere. Let's have a quick look at Earth's Consensus Library entry about this piece and see what we can learn. We see that Koenig made this thing in Bavaria, the same place where the Illuminati was founded. The most interesting fact about the placement of the sphere at the World Trade Center Plaza has to be that architect and designer of the World Trade Center, Minoru Yamasaki, intended the plaza itself to be a representation of the Grand Mosque of Mecca, the sphere in particular taking the place of the Kaaba. We should also bear in mind in this regard that the Great Pyramid has the ratio of pi encoded mathematically in its design. The benben, the obelisk, the pyramid, the circle and the sphere are thus all intimately connected. Ralph Ellis further speculates in Eden in Egypt that the processional rituals of the Muslims during the Hajj are directly descended from the rituals involving the circling of the Great Pyramid of Giza. This is why I believe the sphere was set to rotate every 24 hours at the World Trade Center Plaza. It was mimicking the processional rituals at the Kaaba and at the Great Pyramid of Giza.
For in the religion of the mystery schools, they believed that man was held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust and vindictive God, and that man was not told by this unjust and vindictive God that he could have the same powers. And man was set free from the bonds of ignorance by Lucifer through his agent Satan, and many believe that the two are the same. That's okay, because maybe they are. And that through the gift of intellect, man himself will become God.
When the Titanic left, it was declared the unsinkable ship. If you do that, Allah will sink it, just to spite it. You can't do that. When they made the Challenger, now you know what Challenger means in Arabic? Mutahaddi. It's a very bad word. Who are they challenging? They're sending it off into space. Who are you challenging? Challenging who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, look what happened. He'll just blow you up. That's what Allah will do, literally just blow you up. And then they say, oh, it's a tragedy. The 7th grade teacher riding on raw technology. They put a 7th grade teacher into raw technology, thinking that they're قادرين عليها حتى ظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها. They thought the people, they'll become so deluded. Allah says in Surah Yunus, they will become so deluded that they think they're all powerful over the earth. Right, so they take off on the Challenger. Allah, you want to call it Challenger? We'll see how long the challenge lasts.
So as we start to look into the numerology, what we're looking at is a tree of life. And this is something that the magicians use, and what I believe to be a map of the extra dimension. So as you're looking into this map, there are 10 spots on it, and they are called the Sephirah. And within these Sephirahs, you have your Trinity at the top. So this is the all, the one, looking at itself and creating a reflection. You go up from the bottom up to the top, you have 10 points, 10 being God. 10 being the hermaphroditic symbol, 1 and 0. So as you come up to 10, that is their God. That is 10. That is the hermaphrodite. But if you stop at 9 and you skip to 11, skipping God, then you are a Luciferian. Because 11 is the number of the magician. It's the one step above. Once you have accomplished the tree of life, you are now the magician. You are one above 10. But they're doing it by skipping God. That's the symbolism of 9/11. As you come up to 10, that is their God. That is 10. That is the hermaphrodite. But if you stop at 9 and you skip to 11, skipping God, then you are a Luciferian. Because 11 is the number of the magician. It's the one step above. Once you have accomplished the tree of life, you are now the magician. You are one above 10. But they're doing it by skipping God. That's the symbolism of 9/11.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
We were on assignment. We were supposed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
In Fight Club, Project Mayhem destroys a giant bronze spherical sculpture. This seems an obvious reference to the sphere at the World Trade Center complex.
Trust me, everything's gonna be fine.
In a pivotal scene reminiscent of 9/11, we see the destruction of skyscrapers and the change of a skyline.
Second anniversary of the 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center, George Bush asked for an $87 billion increase in military spending.
In 1904, Crowley would receive the Book of the Law soon after meditating in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. He claimed he had been contacted by a being called Aiwas, Crowley would also use this symbol in his work. Some of its meanings are said to include a reference to the number 77 in Hebrew and a connection to the god Pan. Crowley made this drawing of a non-human intelligence he saw during a ritual. Synchronous 23 has made the connection between Aiwass and the Wizard of Oz, and has further pointed out the similarities between Crowley's grey alien-like drawing and the depiction of the projection of the Wizard of Oz in the film version. The much overlooked theory has been put forward on the internet that when we are looking at George W. Bush, we are actually seeing Aleister Crowley's grandson. I have suggested that this video footage of George W. Bush reading The Pet Goat, coinciding with the start of the 9/11 mega ritual, is in fact a dedication of the 9/11 mega ritual to the great god Pan by Aleister Crowley's grandson. Things get a little weird. This is the 1978 version of The Wizard of Oz, The Wiz. Again we see the Emerald City connected to New York. On arriving at the end of the Yellow Brick Road, Dorothy and her companions go through the circular portal. Through the door we see 3 pyramids. Behind the pyramid shape, in between the pyramid pillars of the World Trade Center, we see the sphere, the representation of the Kaaba. The inhabitants of Oz dance around the sphere in ritualistic fashion. Fashioned in giant letters over the dome of the sphere, we see the word Oz. Oz, symbols of Pan and Aiwass, seen smack at the heart, where the new Aeon was ushered in, and where the Stargate was opened. Towers is called the spherical caryatid. It was made by artist Fritz Koenig and was nicknamed the Sphere. We see that Koenig made this thing in Bavaria, the same place where the Illuminati was founded. The most interesting fact about the placement of the sphere at the World Trade Center Plaza has to be that architect and designer of the World Trade Center, Minoru Yamasaki, intended the plaza itself to be a representation of the Grand Mosque of Mecca, the sphere in particular taking the place of the Kaaba.
So, my friends, it's time you start placing your faith and your dedication to the one and only God, the everlasting creator of everything on earth and in the universe. He is greater than anything our minds can comprehend. Do you know how many times Muslims are required to circle the Kaaba when they visit it? 7 times, each counterclockwise. Would you like to know why? You see, what binds us as humans to this life and to this dimension and to this earth is the limits of time and space. We are bound to this dimension and this reality through time and space. Hence, if one wants to leave this dimension or leave this reality, he needs to break away from time and space. So when you visit the Kaaba and you rotate counterclockwise, what is this practice actually doing? It is literally helping you elevate your soul and elevating yourself to break away from time and space so you can touch something so unique and so beautiful and so powerful that it changes your life forever. And if you don't believe me, ask anyone who has visited the Kaaba how he or she felt or how their lives have changed ever since.
Now when it comes to the Kaaba, the main point that we try to communicate is the following. In Islam or in the Quran, God teaches that if all mankind and if all the jinn combine to sin and move away from God, then God doesn't lose one atom's worth of his kingdom. And if mankind and jinn combined to dedicate every second of their life to prayer and to worship of the one God, then God's kingdom doesn't gain one atom's worth as well. What does this philosophy teach you? It teaches you that God is not in need of you, or your practices, or your worships, or your prayers. You are in need of these practices and these worships. You are in need of God and not the other way around. If you can understand that philosophy, then you can appreciate prayers and what they are meant to do, which is basically enlighten you. So when dealing, for example, with the Kaaba, Muslims are required to go and perform Hajj one time in their life. And it's one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Growing up, most Muslims accept this, and most of them do it without questioning. And this is the essence of belief, and this is great. But at the same time, this doesn't mean that if you question or research, you're going to come back with negative or bad answers. The opposite is actually true. So when we started researching into the esoteric agendas and we started researching the elite, we found out how much certain type of practices and rituals can affect your lives. So when we went and placed this on Islam, we developed an even deeper respect for this religion and a far deeper respect for God and the creator of us. So when you go to the Kaaba and you circle around it 7 times, the essence of this worship is not that you are worshipping a stone, or that you are worshipping a house, or that you are worshipping a Kaaba. the Kaaba is merely the focal point or the centerpiece that all Muslims have to unite and focus their energy and prayers towards in a practice that is actually worshiping God. Now, going in circles counterclockwise does not break you away from time and space. But the fact that the energy of the Kaaba is the strongest energy on earth and it flows counterclockwise, by you flowing in correlation with this energy, you are uplifting yourself. You are reaching spiritual levels that you rarely do experience anywhere else on earth. And the fact that you gotta do it 7 times, and we are taught that there are 7 skies or 7 samawat or 7 spiritual planes, then one can discover that each circle breaks you through a spiritual plane spiritually, so you can reach the ultimate state of wisdom and spirituality. Does this mean that only Muslims can reach this level? Does this mean that if you're not Muslim you give up or you reject this information? Not at all. In essence, any one of you, regardless of what your faith is, if you are dedicating your worship and your journey to the one and only Creator and not anything created, then you are on a righteous path. To begin with, the significance of 911. What you have to understand, and what we are trying to explain, is that when dealing with extra dimensions, or when dealing with beings from extra dimensions like jinn, for example, or when dealing with the Illuminati, or the elite, or people that follow a certain type of esoteric agendas, although me and you communicate through words and letters, they have chosen a different type of language. And this is a cross-boundary type of language. This is a language that goes across the boundaries, understood by all. And this is the language of numbers and shapes. And this is why whenever you do research about these groups, you'll find out that they practice something called sacred numerology and sacred geometry. What does this mean? It means that each number is given a meaning. Each shape is given a meaning. A meaning is communicated whenever a shape is presented or a number is presented by these specific groups. I'm not talking about random people or random groups. We're talking about specific groups that follow this type of agenda. When numbers are used, it signifies a certain type of meaning. When shapes are used, the same is followed. So, in their definition, in a numerological sense, 10 is the Alpha and the Omega, or the God. 11 is a step above God. 101 is a step above God. 911 or 911 is the skipping of God. It is the ultimate challenge. It is going from number 9, which has a specific meaning, to number 11 without going through 10. It's skipping God. So it's no coincidence that this event that we call 911 today took place on 911. It is the ultimate challenge. So now that we understood what 911 means, what other practice do we do that deals with 911? Calling a number whenever you are in an emergency. Now, creating an institution that helps people whenever they are in need of help and whenever they are experiencing an emergency is fine. There's nothing against it. There's no religion, there's no logical person on earth that will tell you this is wrong. But when you understand how sinister these elites are and the way they work on a level that's way beyond what you think. So the fact that when you're experiencing an emergency or when you are in need of help, you have to pick up a phone and dial 911, which is the ultimate numerological definition of skipping God, then you'll understand how these people work. And when dealing with rituals, you would recognize that everything adds up. For something to be a ritual, everything has to be in place, everything has to be perfect. And my advice is, if you want to recognize that something is satanic, it has to add up in all sense. The numbers have to add up, the shapes have to add up, the event has to add up, it has to have one general meaning. Pieces of the puzzle fit perfect. That's when you recognize when something is ritualistic or satanic.
I'm not a hunter, but I'm told that in places like in the Arctic, where indigenous people sometimes might hunt a wolf, they'll take a double-edged blade and they'll put blood on the blade and they'll melt the ice and stick the handle in the ice so that only the blade is protruding, and that a wolf will smell the blood and wants to eat, and it'll come and lick the blade trying to eat. And what happens is when the wolf licks the blade, of course, he cuts his tongue and he bleeds and he thinks he's really having a good meal. He drinks and he licks and of course he's drinking his own blood and he kills himself. That's what the imperialists did to us with crack cocaine. You got these young brothers out there thinking that they're getting something that they're gonna make a living with. They're getting something they can buy a car like the white people have cars. Why can't I have a car? They're getting something that they can get a piece of gold. The white people have gold. Why can't I have gold? They're getting something to get a house. The white people have a house. Why can't I have a house? And they actually think that it's something that's bringing resources to them, but they're killing themselves just like the wolf who's licking the blade, and they're slowly dying without knowing. That's what's happening to the community. You with me on that? That's exactly and precisely what happens to the community. And instead of blaming the hunter who put the damn handle and the blade in the ice for the wolf, that what happens is the wolf gets blamed for trying to live. That's what happens in our community. You don't blame the person, the victim, you blame the oppressor. Imperialism, white power is the enemy. Was the enemy when it first came to Africa, snatched up the first African, brought us here against our will, is the enemy today. That's the thing that we have to understand.
Can't go back, you know? No. But if you could, would you really want to? Try to free your mind, Leo.
The dollar falling again against the euro today after that weak new home sale.
The Dow Jones is up 105 points. This on a day when oil was up to a new time high of 96.
Realized inflation was running at 0.8%. Now, there's no way that's true. If the government was accurately reporting inflation, we would know we're in a recession.
We've got about 30 seconds or so, but I want to get your take on how much lower you think the markets can go right now.
We think that the markets can decline 50 or 60%. We hate to say something so somber, but it's not the time to be optimistic or pessimistic. It's time to be realistic. Our whole system has been built on credit expansion. We have to grow credit year over year in order to keep the economy growing. The economy is not going to grow. It's going to suffer recession, and once it enters recession, it's going to cascade on itself.
But what counts is not how many dollars we have, but what those dollars are worth and what we can buy with them. And the dollar is becoming less valuable every day. And based on our economy, our huge current account, our huge trade deficits, our lack of domestic manufacturing, our lack of domestic savings, there's only one thing the dollar can do, and that's go down.
People who have saved, they're being robbed.
And then Dajjal moved to a day which is like a month, and the United States replaced Britain as the ruling state in the world. And the US dollar became the international currency. And now the United States is about to relinquish power, and Israel is about to replace the United States as the ruling state in the world. And what will be the new money? Answer: the US dollar is going to be attacked, it will collapse and bring down all the paper money of the world with it. You won't see paper money after that. Well, then what's going to be money? What's the new money that Israel will use to enslave mankind? The way the United States used the US dollar. Answer: Israel is going to use invisible money, you can't see it. Intangible money, you can't touch it. It will be electronic money.
What kind of new monetary system would you like to see? Do you want the dollar to be gold backed again? Would you like to go back to fixed exchange rates? Give us a sense of where you'd like to go.
Well, we should follow the law, and the law is the Constitution. The Constitution said only gold and silver should be legal tender. We don't really have clear authority to have a central bank.
The dollar's going down, the cost of living is going up. Our dollar today is worth 4 cents compared to the dollar of 1913 when the Federal Reserve took charge of it. And if you don't deal with the dollar, there will be no retirement for anybody. We're going to have chaos.
And the strange thing, the dangerous thing about electronic money is it is controlled by the banking system around the world, and the Jews control the banking system. That's not an uncharitable statement. That's not an invalid statement. That's the truth. We said that Israel is about to wage a big war. They prepared for this when the Israeli Mossad and the CIA attacked America on September 11th and put the blame on us Muslims. They know that's false. They know that they're speaking a monstrous lie. But yet they do it. The Prophet ﷺ warned us that amongst the times of the last day, he said, would be that people would speak great lies. Beware, he said.
Intelligence agency to question key terms.
Supported by fact, Fox Noise today actually suggests the
equipment that they need in order to protect themselves, and so you have to weigh those priorities. But I think what is an extreme and therefore kind of an extremely indefensible Republican
attacks, including a plot to strike the U.S. Marine camp in Djibouti, a planned attack on the U.S. consulate in Karachi, a plot to hijack a passenger plane and fly it into Library Tower in Los Angeles, the planes into Heathrow Airport. Despite the record of success, and despite the fact that our professionals use lawful techniques, which of the attacks I have just described would they prefer we had not stopped?
The Matrix is a computer-generated dream, built to keep us under control, to change
solar panel. The system was $250. This is where the panels, the power comes in. It's just it's working and it's charging. See the little lights charging right now. And
The world is changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air. Much that once was is lost.
With my nose in it since the whole thing began. Who in their right mind, Kevin, could possibly deny the 20th century was entirely mine? All of it, Kevin! All of it. Mine. I'm peaking, Kevin. It's my time now.
Turn of the tide. have been avoided. There is no way that the United States and Israel are going to tolerate any resistance in the Arab world. You want to pretend it can be avoided, you can play that game. But serious people, clear-headed people, knew there was going to be a war sooner or later. You think there's not going to be another war? You think Israel is going to allow that defeat in July 2006? No, there will be another war, and the destruction will probably be 10 times worse, because Israel is determined with the United States to put the Arabs in their place and to keep them in their place. Now, how can I not respect those who say no to that? Israel has to suffer a defeat.
أنتم الجيل الذي سوف يشهد الانتصار النهائي الحاسم لأمتنا وتغيير وجه المنطقة وإقامة المشروع الحقيقي الذي ينتمي إلى شعوبنا وأمتنا.
Didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path. One that we all must take. And then you see it.
It isn't so bad.
No, it isn't.
Why is he known as the false Messiah? His mission is to impersonate the true Messiah. The true Messiah was the son of Mary, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Jesus. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. When Allah sent him, he was sent as the true Messiah with a mission to rule the world from Jerusalem, from Holy Israel.
Peaceful dismantlement of the state of Israel. Then we can once again coexist as we have for hundreds of years. We have older rabbis who will testify lived in the old state of Jerusalem before 1948. He'll tell you how he lived coexisted with all the Arab neighbors, how they babysat each other's children when they went to Yom Kippur. When the women went to Yom Kippur on the fast day, the Muslim neighbors babysat the children, the most precious objects they gave to them to protect. How could that be if they're our enemies, mortal enemies? Because they're not. It's not a religious conflict. That's a Zionist ploy.
Sauron has regained much of his former strength. He cannot yet take physical form, but his spirit has lost none of its potency. Concealed within his fortress, the Lord of Morthor sees all. His gaze pierces cloud, shadow, earth, and you know of what I speak, Gandalf. A great eye, lidless, breathed in flame. Yes, he is gathering all evil to him. Very soon he will have summoned an army great enough to launch an assault upon Middle-earth. He knows.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
The user, the banker, right? The banker, Lloyd's Bank, all these characters, they're going to be put in front of Allah. Bank of America, Citicorp, Chase Manhattan, World Bank, they'll all be given their swords by the angels. And then the angel will say, here's your Lord, now go to war. And how long are they going to last? They're going to slit their own throats. Ya laytani kuntu turaba. Oh, would that I was dust. The Prophet ﷺ saw them on the Isra and Mi'raj drinking blood in a river, because that's the manifestation of the reality of their acts.
saying that Zachariah Sitchin is a member of what? The Illuminati?
Absolutely. Zachariah Sitchin met with Corrado Balducci. Who is Corrado Balducci? Corrado Balducci is not only the official spokesman for the UFO in the Vatican. He's a demonologist.
Okay.
The biggest exorcist in the Vatican.
Right.
I mean, it was Crowley who said, you call them gods, then we call them angels. In 50 years, we will call them something else.
The force of good and evil. He says, you believe in one person believe in God, and everyone believes in Lucifer. It's like politics. Lucifer and all his angels. They're just as beautiful as they did before they were cast out of heaven. And through these people, they are sold to the fact that Christ will not return to this planet in power and great glory.
جديدة. سنقاتلكم قتالا لم تشهدوا طوال تاريخكم.
And if I can die having brought any light, having exposed any meaningful truth that will help destroy this disease, then all the credit is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds.
and only the mistakes have been learned.
Tandy?
You already know if I'm going to take it?
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
But if you already know, how can I make a choice?
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it.